Welcome to All Stats Out We, a podcast in which Leeds fans cast their combined eye over goings on at Ellen Road, giving scrutiny to the underlying statistics and tactical footings at work at Leeds United. I'm Alfie Felton-Glenn, the wonder kid making his debut of the podcast. Will I be a first-team regular, or my child cut short and sent to the Vanarama? Only time will tell. And I'm joined today by past his best first-teamer of the podcast, who I'm definitely not here to replace, or am I? It's Martin Riley. Martin, how are you?
I cannot complain, Alfie. I've had a very good weekend. Leeds United won a game of football at Old Trafford in the first time in a long time. So, yippee, that's good. We're recording at a different time to normal, as you can may see from the light in the background. But so not too much chance for breakfast or lunchtime chat, unless you've had something especially nice for either of those, Alfie.
Just a bacon sandwich.
Good.
Pretty nice.
That'll do. And how are you doing today?
Oh, good. Yeah, pretty lazy day, no work. Bit of reading, going out this evening, making dinner, some sort of pasta with meatballs because that's what we have. And then I'm off to a gig later, my sister's gig at Hyde Park Book Club. So, yeah.
Very nice. You've got a more exciting evening planned than me. All I'm going to be doing is looking after my kids and playing some video games. That's about all for me. No, it's all good. But yeah, first want to say thank you for coming on to this pod, since none of the other regular podcasters were available this time.
That's all right.
So thank you very much for coming on.
Everyone will just have to excuse me when I stumble over my words and accidentally announce that I'm a Man U fan. No, I'm joking.
Oh well, that's a disaster averted, I suppose. But yeah.
Yeah, so today we'll be covering, as you mentioned, the 2-1 win over Manchester United, and we'll be looking ahead to the Wolverhampton Wanderers match at the weekend, which might be even more nervy than the Man U match, depending on how things go. Just some quick stats about the match. Ended 2-1. Total expected goals, really, really impressive. I think one of our highest of the season, 2.57 over the entire match. I presume a lot of that came in the first half. Just to Man United's half of that, 1.27. Despite that, they actually had more of the ball, but it was pretty even, 53% to 47% possession. Manchester United also had 20 shots to our 15, 9 shots on target to our 6, but they only had one big chance, as opposed to our 4, which I think shows just where their shots actually came from. A lot of outside the box shooting.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a very impressive performance, especially with that amount of XG put up away from home, which we haven't often done this season. So some great stats to start with.
Yeah. So we'll get into the interrogation. So first things first, the first half, Martin, probably the more impressive half. I think everyone will agree. Also seemed to last a lot shorter than the second half, for sure. I think the last 10 minutes felt as long as the other 80 minutes. So getting into details a bit more, why do you think we were able to dominate so much in the first half, especially straight out of the gates? Why do you think it was all down to us, or?
I think it was a lot that we were doing, which was good. However, I don't think Man United got the out of possession setup really great in this one. We spoke about in the preview how they've got quite a narrow press, which they have, which is like a kind of narrow 4-4-2 press. Sometimes one of those two in the front will drop back into the line, but it was quite a narrow press, which left a lot of space down the outside channels. And considering that's where we do, I'd probably say about a good 75 to 80% of our chance creation from the flanks, it didn't seem like the best game plan against us. And I don't think it was also just that either. I don't think that they got the spacings right. I don't think they were jumping right into certain players. I felt Tanaka had a lot of time and space at times in the first half especially. That started getting cut out in the second, but in the first half he did have a lot of space and was able to dictate play quite easily. And in general, I think our players seem to be up for it more. I know we don't often speak about the intangible side of things, but it did seem that we had more intensity to go after the second balls and to try to close down players when they did have the ball. We won possession quite a lot of times, and the second goal came from a turnover, I believe, and that just shows if you can win the ball more often than your opponent, especially in their third, that it's going to make it easier for you to generate chances. Not to go all Jesse Marsh, but it is a viable way of creating chances. But I do think that Manchester United also did make things easier for us, especially with the midfield selection they went with, which was quite defensively minded, with Ugarte and Casemiro in there. Whereas I think maybe a more front foot passer like Kobbie Mainoo starting may have been a better choice for them.
Yeah.
Because I think their game plan was to look to go direct to either Shesko or to Ahmad on the other side. And they did get a little bit of joy from that, but because we did more and were better when we had the ball, there was a touch of fortune, I think, in both of the goals. Only a touch. There was still some good play in there. Good finish from Okafor for the first, and a nice little deflection for the second. What did you make to it?
Yeah. I mean, you speak about it being a Jesse Marshism. I figured someone who played for Manchester United as long as Michael Carrick would have expected us to go for the win and not sit back. So maybe that leads to the more defensive-minded lineup. But despite saying that, they did not cope with the press at all the way through the match, but especially not at the start of the match. Yeah, I just wonder if I'm going off vibes, but whether we appeared for the occasion more than they did.
No, I 100% agree with that. Yeah, I do think that we seemed more desperate for the win. I know obviously they're fighting for European places, but it's a different kind of fight when you're in a relegation battle like we are. That you'd really need these points as opposed to just really wanting them, which is a bit of a difference.
Yeah. Going to that, then we were all over him. It felt like maybe a few odd spikes throughout the first 70 minutes or so, and then Lisandro Martinez fancied having a tug on a very nice man's hair, a very nice man's very nice hair, and got himself sent off, much to Rio Ferdinand's agony, and many a Man U fan's agony. Yeah, directly after that, it felt like, well, it didn't feel like, I think we could all see that Man U were on top for most of the last 20 minutes. We had a few decent chances, but for the most part, it was a lot of scrambles around our box, and Darlow had to do a bit of work. So why do you think that momentum shifted after the red card?
So, yeah, it's a funny thing. This can quite often happen when a red card happens. It doesn't really affect the game in the way you expect it to affect the game. Sometimes it does, and sometimes the team who have red cards immediately capitulates and concedes. But it can also have an effect on the side who hasn't had a player sent off, more in the terms of maybe players get a bit complacent, that kind of thing. That, well, we've only got 10 men now. We'll be able to do what we like. And it wasn't quite like that. I don't think Man United did too much different to what they were doing before the red card. They were trying to get Bruno on the ball a bit more than what they were before, which I don't think they did.
Checking what subs. They didn't make any subs until 14 minutes afterwards, which is interesting considering the only centre-back they had on at the time was Yoro, who didn't have his best of games. And then the substitutes they did make, the only substitutes of the match, I should say, from Manchester United were Diego Dalot and Mbeumo. So, yeah, Michael Carrick clearly felt like he had enough faith in his back line without Martinez, despite Martinez making that really important block at the end of the first half.
Yeah, exactly. It was weird that they didn't go for changes immediately. I think maybe Carrick wanted to let the game play out a bit just to see how things were going, and then decided to add some more players on. And then we did our own subs about 5 minutes after that, if I recall correctly, when we brought on Willian Yonto and Ilya Gruev. But it was an interesting spell of the game and I think we were trying to manage the game. I'm skipping into the next question now because it just felt right. But the way we managed the game in the final half an hour, I think we were trying to keep hold of the ball quite often. We were looking to go to the final third, then recycle it back and try to waste time by keeping hold of the ball, which is, I'd probably say, the best way of doing that in that scenario, because teams aren't going to want to press too aggressively when they've got one man less, because it'll leave more space for you to get into behind and potentially cause another goal to be scored. But I think we could have done better at that even more if we would have made those changes. Not much sooner than what we did, probably about 5 minutes before, around the time when Carrick made theirs. I'm splitting hairs because I do think that
I think it's very hard to criticise Farke on this
No,
match.
I agree.
For once, his subs felt right, but I don't think there's going to be a match, and I don't think there has been a match where we've said Farke should have made subs a bit earlier. Is in his almost 3 years of tenure now.
It is very true. It is a common complaint, one which he isn't going to get out of. And so, like I said before, I'm done labouring over it too much. But I do think that largely we did manage the game well. They got a goal from a poorly defended set piece, I'll say. Casemiro was their only real aerial threat, and we had no one marking him, which seemed a very odd decision to me. So there's a clear tactic for Bruno Fernandes to hit that far post area for him to get onto. He went for it a few times. And also, I just want to say that he wasn't closed down anywhere near enough in that moment as well. Watched that back a few times. I think Okafor started going towards him, but then kind of stopped. And I don't really understand why. But yeah, little moments like that can happen in games.
It really felt like wherever we could, we should have had a man on Bruno Fernandes. Without his passes, they had nothing really. They really weren't that much, and I'm really surprised to see a team like Manchester United have their only attacking threat as long balls in corners and the odd random long shot, which would be shot, meters above the net. That's all they seem to really do, which sort of explains, the 7 shots on target, the 14 shots, and 1.1 xG in the second half.
It 100% does, and they are very reliant on Bruno to dig them out of situations. And it's one thing which, again, what I picked up on in the preview was that they do go for a lot of those longer balls to try to catch teams out. It's not all about the short build-up with Carrick. He does like to mix things up and go more direct, and it felt like he was relying on that a bit more than he would do normally in this one, especially when they went to 10 men. It's just one of those natural shifts which I think kind of happened with the players. But I want to say that our team played impeccably. I couldn't pick an individual who was bad throughout this game. There's a couple of moments where players maybe didn't make the right decision, but largely most players were good,
even
good to excellent.
Even Calvert-Lewin, everyone knows he missed a couple of stinkers, but at the same time, if it wasn't for a double block, a goal line clearance from his head and a very, very quick block from a low shot, 5 seconds later, we wouldn't have won the match. So, it's really hard to pick out any of our players for being poorer than the others, because I really don't think I was. A bit more generally, my usual or the usual host that I am replacing today, Mr. Adam Elliott, has also asked whether we are not making the most of transitional attacks because we lack player quality, or is it a coaching issue with Farke and not working on counter attacks? I personally maybe I'm mixing up his words here and making him sound a bit too critical. I thought our counter-attacks were excellent on Monday. Yeah, I thought it was maybe the best in a while that we've looked on a counter. And like I said, it is a shame that we couldn't have capped a few off. But yeah, what did you make of the counter-attack?
I thought there were some good counter-attacks and also some poorly executed ones. I think
Yeah.
Adam's referring to some of the ones in the second half when they were down to 10 men, when there was a lot more space to attack. And there were, I think, off the top of my head, about 2 or 3 transitional attacks that we had. One which was started by Darlow when he did that lovely, I must say, lovely pass. That was a lovely pass, and we really didn't make the most of that. I think Calvert-Lewin moved to the inside rather than the outside in that moment, and if he would have gone outside, I think we could have had a good movement there. It kind of went the same way that, was it Aronson at the time, or was it Bogle? I can't remember who it was.
I think it's Bogle. He runs to the edge of the box and then gets tackled fairly easily.
Yeah. So it's just little moments like that where I think Adam's referring to. I think generally we have been quite good with counter-attacks. I think it's hard for us to speculate whether it is a coaching issue and Farke doesn't work on them. But I think the ones in this one, we can definitely say there was some player actions which weren't the best, and that's what led to these counter-attacks breaking down. Throughout the season, we have had some good counter-attacking displays, also some more poorer ones. So I think I would be leaning more towards players not making the right action in those moments than it being a coaching issue, personally.
Yeah, it's fair to say that if they made the right decisions and the right actions, we could have been 3 or 4 up in the first half. Yeah, we had less chances in the second half, despite the red card. I think a lot of that probably does come down to us just playing more defensively and playing off the counter attack rather than a general play of holding the ball and passing it around to Leeds fans O'Leyan on the halfway line.
Definitely.
Just we've already talked about who performed badly, and we deduced that it wasn't really anyone. But who do you think performed particularly well and shone above the rest? Yeah, because I think there was a few really, really good performances as opposed to really good performances from the others.
Yeah, there definitely was, and I think there could be at least 3 or 4 people who you could make an argument for being man of the match in this one. The most obvious answer is no Rockefeller because of his 2 fantastic goals. But it wasn't just the goals that he was doing well. He was driving well with the ball. He made a few good defensive contributions as well. And
Okafor, I think a lot of people missed as well on the Tanaka opportunity at the end of the first half. Okafor is the one who wins the ball and threads it through to Tanaka just before that.
He was indeed. Yeah, he did a lot of good work, didn't Noah, in this game, and I do think that we have missed him quite a bit while he's been out. That was something we put out on our TikTok that you did. But what Hosty and Dan were talking about on, I think it was
very proud of.
Yeah, exactly. They're very proud of their observations there, and rightly so. We've missed him, and we definitely have. So he was very good in this game. Tanaka had a fantastic performance. It's a shame that he had to come off when he did, but I think maybe he was getting a bit tired himself, bit of cramp in his legs. So I'm hoping that's all it is, and it isn't anything worse than a bit of cramp, and he's still able to play in the next fixture, because we would probably miss him now with having Stack already out for what is probably till the end of the season now, I'd expect. And yeah, we'd miss him if he was out. Ethan Ampadu was good too. He made a lot of good interceptions and tackles and just generally some good passing movements as well. Carl Darlow made some pretty decent saves as well. There was quite a few players who you could pick on. Anyone else that you want to take note
of? Not really. I think it really showed how much we missed Goodmanson. Some of the balls that he managed to put in and some of the runs he managed to make were what you'd expect of a team pushing for the Champions League, not a team avoiding relegation. I think we've all sort of already decided that he's a top half Premier League player. Yeah. I don't want to get called out on this in the future if he has an absolute stinker, but yeah. And I think when we've got Goodmanson on the pitch, for some reason, Bogle automatically seems to play better as well, because I thought Bogle was fantastic. Obviously, he got not the assist, but he put the ball in for Calvert-Lewin's first goal. We said as well he made that dribble into a good position before he got tackled in the second half. And yeah, there were a few other good runs into the box that were really impressive from him. Another player I thought played really well was Beale. I thought he shone defensively a bit more than Struijk did. I think he was also maybe a bit reckless at times, but he put in some really vital tackles in the second half. I think it was a shame from, well, what do you think about whether the centre-backs were very dominant in the box on defensively? Because it felt like Darlow was sort of having to punch a lot of balls out where you'd expect the big heads and big legs of Struijk and Beale to be able to just knock them out.
Yeah, there were a few moments where Darlow had to come out and do some work in that respect. He made a good punch late on in the game, which I remembered quite clearly, which was nice. But yeah, I think Beale for me, he had a mixed game. He had some good moments and some bad. I think he was sticking very close to Benjamin Šeško, and sometimes too close, because Šeško had the beating of him 1v1. So when the balls were getting put over the top, he wasn't able to keep up with him, and I think he needs to have a little bit more separation than that at times, not following him around so strictly. I do realise that he had to mark him. I think he was a player who was assigned to mark him, but there were a few moments where he didn't do great. But outside of those few moments, he also had a good game and made a lot of good defensive work in there. But there was a lot of work to do in that box, to be fair, because that was the main tactic that Worcester had from open play and set pieces was crosses.
Yeah, I don't know how many corners they have, I haven't checked, but I know it was a lot. I was a little bit scared with having Darlow on instead of Perry at times for them corners, because obviously Perry is a massive presence and Darlow's still very tall, but he's not as big a presence. And we saw against Arsenal how he got bullied into the net a few times, one of them leading into a very clumsy goal. So I was a little bit scared that would happen again. But yeah, he performed very well. If you had to pick a single player out, who would you say was your man of the match? Okafor is the easy answer to this.
He is, and that is the player that I'm going to choose as well, because ultimately he's scored both the goals, which got us a win in this game, and also had good moments outside of that as well. But I wouldn't criticise anyone who was picking Ampadu or Tanaka or Goodmanson or Bogle. They all made big contributions to this match. So there's so many. I'm looking forward to seeing what I'm not sure if the official man of the match for the Leeds Twitter has come out yet.
It is Okafor. I believe they released earlier today.
I'd imagine there will have been a lot of picks elsewhere outside of him as well, because he was good, but there's also a lot of players who were also nearly just as good. But for me, he just edged it with his performance.
Anything else to say about Manchester United, or are we all good to move on to the next section?
No, I'm all good. I don't think there's anything else to add on this one. It was a fantastic win. We should be very proud of ourselves, and it's a massive, massive step in the direction of staying safe in this league. Can't be overstated how much that these 3 points weren't expected and weren't being factored into most predictions about who's going to stay up. And I think last time I checked, we're at a 1% or 2% chance of being relegated now.
By 1.6%. Although the Opta percentage is jump up to 20% and down to 2%, like absolutely nobody's business. So fantastic win. I'm not sure when the last time we went a season without losing to Chelsea in the league. At least we don't know what's going to happen in the semi-final. Chelsea, Liverpool and Man U is. So it's absolutely fantastic.